It's now time for the Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Triple espresso for tonight. That's some good shit. How's everybody going? Sunday night, January 12th, 2025. I am back once again for the sit down. Big shout out to everybody who is joining us live. Big shout out to everybody live and on the archive. What a crazy last bunch of days. As far as pro wrestling goes, even mainstream news, I woke up around 5 o'clock this morning, couldn't go back to sleep, checked online, started getting stuff together for the news update for this weekend, and I started seeing all this hysteria about Molina. And listen, when we did the news update, I made it clear, we were very concerned about Molina. Hopefully that she's okay. But, I don't know if some people just don't know how to handle crisis sometimes, because there were people online that, I didn't see that there were Molina fan pages. Sure, look, if you're a fan of someone and they're missing, you're concerned. But I'm reading grown individuals oh my God, please tell me she's okay. Please. I'm you do that for your mother. You do that for your dogs. People were just losing it online. I'm whoa, do you have any idea what's going on in California? There's thousands of people that are out their homes. There's no power. There's no water. People are relocating. Not everybody has internet service. Even though Gavin Newsom, I think he was full of shit with that woman when he's I got no phone service. I'm trying to call the president. I got no phone service. And I'm everyone, listen, yeah, you're concerned. Post, let everybody else know, hey, be on the lookout. Hopefully she's okay. Prayers. And people were losing it. It was hysteria online. And then you got the wrestling websites that are just looking for hits, because they don't just write, the wrestling world is very concerned. Perez is missing in Los Angeles. If anybody out there, speaks to her, please let everybody know. No, they write former WWE women's champion and valet of one of the most legendary tag teams, M&M, is missing. And I'm when you write shit like that, you don't give a flying fuck. Just like Hunter Q. Robbins III, Ringside News, they do it every single time. The tributes are pouring in. And I was a fan in 93 of ECW. I remember the guy, but 99% of the wrestling world don't know who he is. And I looked for these pouring tributes coming in, and I found 3. We made sure to pay tribute to him this morning. But they write the same generic shit. We're deeply saddened. Oh, you're not? You didn't know the fuck who the guy was. Be a little sincere. I don't know. This weekend was a little bizarre, although people are giving me credit for it. I don't know if you should, but Wrestlenomics starting to give credit. Still extremely fucking vague. But for those that might be newer, we've been on a very vocal, not crusade, but we've been very, very vocal about Wrestlenomics and their quarter-hour numbers. Very skeptical of how they come up. And then whenever you repost their information on Twitter, they're please do not repost our information. Instead, credit us. And I've always said the same thing. How come you never credit who you get it from? They're charging money to put this up. And from the research that we did, some of those numbers were figments of someone's imagination. They never credited anybody. They tell you, always credit them, but they never tell you who they get it. Now, all of a sudden, after years, now they're saying, per a Nielsen representative. Well, that's still very fucking vague, but I'll take it. I'll take it. All right. We got some stuff to talk about, obviously. You'd be surprised how many people I pissed off showing everybody this autographed picture of John Laurinaitis last week. I'm not a fan of the guy. I never liked him. And just a couple of years ago, I'm like, you know what? It'd be interesting if I have an autograph of him. This way, if he ever goes to jail for something, or if he, dies, that's probably a pretty rare item. I don't know anybody that has a John Laurinaitis signed People Power photo. I showed it last week. Are you proud of that? No, I'm not proud of it. I bought it because I thought it was rare. I don't know, man. I don't know. But listen, Vince McMahon, I had to change the thumbnail today because people really offended about the boxing reference. It's a play on letters, TKO. And instead of the O, we put the symbol for the Security and Exchange Commission. You know, I know a majority of you out there want or come to Kevin and I for the truth. Opinions also, but you want the truth. You want straight up information. You don't want me to just stroke your emotions. And, you know, when it comes to the Vince McMahon discussion, there's two ways that we could go about it. We could either come up here and say, that evil son of a bitch, he got away with it again. That prick got it away with it again. Meanwhile, they don't mention that the Securities and Exchange Commission is heavily Democratic, very, very biased, and yet they still gave Vince a slap on the wrist. Nobody called out the Securities and Exchange Commission for giving him a slap on the fucking wrist. But instead, you go the different route. So I don't know, guys. How do you want me to go forward talking about Vince McMahon? Do we just stir up emotions and crucify him on the cross because he's an evil rich pig that could pay his way out of, you know, some very, very promiscuous behavior? Or do we tell it like it is and what we think is going to happen? You know, I posted this thumbnail. This is a replacement thumbnail for tonight. I posted this thumbnail, not a chance. And I emphasized the letters NDA. Not a chance, because the Southern District of New York's case against Vince, the investigation, I should say, is not complete. It's not complete. I think a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. That investigation is not complete. Vince McMahon could very well still be indicted. Still be indicted. Here's the problem, though. Here is the problem. And I'm going to spend a couple of minutes because it is a very big topic of conversation. I'm just telling you everything straight up. Not pro-Vince, not anti-Vince, but in my heart of hearts, I think the Janelle Grant lawsuit is on life support. And the reason why I say that is because of a couple of things, all right? Here's a couple of things. The Securities and Exchange Commission, all right, was investigating Vince for the last 3 years. And after 3 years of investigating, I mean, if you go and you check out the news reports, I'm not going to get into the whole result over here. But they found that Vince did not, advise WWE of all the hush money payments. And some of it was not reported. So as a result, I think 2018 WWE's revenue was off by like 1.5%, 2%. And I think 2021's revenue was off by 8%. It's a bigger number than you think. So the Securities and Exchange Commission comes back and they talk about two women. And from basically all of our research, the two women are Christy Hemme and Janelle Grant. Now, Christy Hemme, and I'm going to make this quick. hopefully I give you a straight up, non-biased lesson as to why I truly believe this Janelle Grant lawsuit is on life support. Her attorney, Ann Callis, will tell you otherwise. She has to. The internet wrestling community and the people who despise Vince McMahon will convince you otherwise. That garbage news reporter, Banfield, Ashley Banfield. Oh, no, she'll tell you, no. Get ready to nail Vince. They'll be even doing auctions. You could have your name on the nail if you want. Here's the deal, okay? In that SEC report, they talked about two women. One woman in 2005 refused sexual advances from Vince McMahon. There was no relationship. She refused advances. And as a result, he derailed her career. Okay? That was 2005. In 2019, with the Saudi Arabia stuff, because we covered this repeatedly back then, this unknown woman, 14 years later, went to Vince and said, pay me, motherfucker. Otherwise, I'm going to tell my story. So Vince agreed to give this woman $7.5 million over 5 years. Now, some people thought it was blackmail. She waited 14 years. She waited for the perfect moment and said, aha, now pay me, bitch. Honestly, I'm happy Christy Kemi got paid. I'm glad that she got paid. Should have happened a long time earlier, but she got paid. Good. Now, do you understand why Vince was paying her $7.5 million over 5 years? DT, Vince is a multi-billionaire. Why he don't need extended credit? Why does he wait 5 years? Janelle Grant, $3 million across 3 years. Why does he got? He's starting to figure it out. An NDA is a contract between two people, company and a person. And the NDA could be anything. You work for a company and maybe the company has secrets. Not illegal, but maybe they create things, they trademark things, they have secrets. You work for McDonald's, you can't give away the secret sauce recipe. So you leave, I'm just using an example. You sign an NDA that the only thing that you'll tell everyone is, yes, I worked there from this time and I left on good terms, period. Someone works for a company, has a romantic relationship with a high-powered executive who happens to be married, who is a public figure, and that person doesn't want their dirty laundry out in the public. Whether you like it or not, Vince McMahon having a 3-year relationship with Janelle Grant was not illegal. What we'll get to Ann Callis later on was not an illegal relationship. There's no investigation that she was hired and given all these money and gifts under the WWE payroll, a pay account because Vince was sleeping with her. If he wants her to work for them, why is that illegal? But the thing is, they had a relationship for 3 years and the relationship ended. Vince McMahon wanted Janelle Grant to sign a contract. Please do not talk about our relationship to anyone. In return, I will give you $3 million over 3 years. $1 million check each year for 3 years. You think Janelle Grant just said, where do I sign? No, there were lawyers involved. Was she zooted out of her brain when she signed it? Did anybody that she interacted with for 3 years, did anybody say, you're acting like Joe Biden? What's wrong with you? Did the medication only kick in during the evening, overnight hours when Vince was horny? If you're under all this fucking crazy medicine, you're a couple of eggs short of a dozen all day long. So what happens, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to be funny so everybody laughs, have a good time. It's a serious thing, but I want everybody to understand. I'm just telling you straight out. I'm not pro Vince. I'm not against Vince. I'm not pro-Vince or anti, no, I'm not pro-Vince or, no, pro-Vince and anti-Vince. Yeah, that is the same. No, it's not the same. You know what I mean? I'm not for or against them. Okay. So he signs the deal with Christy Hemme over 5 years because if he does it a year later, she might open her mouth. So he makes her wait 5 years and gets the money along the way. Same thing with Janelle Grant. Now, here is the thing about NDAs. Malachi Black is leaving AEW. And I had someone tell me on Friday night that part of the deal was he's going to sign an NDA to not talk about, behind the scenes business with AEW. Why does Tony Khan and Chris Jarrett, why do they all make everybody sign NDAs? Because they don't want people to do interviews with Chris Van Vliet or somebody else and down the line talk bad business. Cody Rhodes. Apparently there's an NDA. It's not illegal. But understand, this is the biggest thing you need to realize. An NDA is a contract. Both people benefit from it. Janelle Grant benefited from it. Christy Hemme benefited from it. Other women benefited with millions. When Ann Callis goes public and says, WWE, do the right thing. Vince, do the right thing. Release them from the NDAs. Oh, no. This is business. You signed a fucking contract. Ray Phoenix, you signed a contract. You're a high flyer. With all due respect, you're a high flyer. Me, I injure myself quite a bit. Well, Mr. Phoenix, if you keep getting injured, then we're going to tack extra time on your contract, whether you're wrestling in the ring or you're home mowing the lawn. Oh, maybe I need to have a lawyer look it over. You signed it. Whether you like it or not, they signed the deals. Ann Coulter saying, release them from the NDAs is a speech. No one in the corporate world do the right thing. Don't fire anybody during COVID. Do the right thing. Release them from the NDAs. Do the right thing. Don't let Ray Phoenix stay home and do nothing. He's in the prime of his career. He signed a contract. They sign NDAs. It is a contract. I benefit. You don't tell everyone that we slept with each other or I tried to sleep with you. And in return, you're set for life. That's the deal. Period. So the Security and Exchange Commission now investigates the $14 million that he's paid out. Now, why did Vince stop the payments to Janelle Grant? Remember, if Vince never stopped the payments, I forget, what's her name again? Ann Landers, whatever her name is. Someone write her name again. I just drew a blank. Janelle Grant wouldn't have filed a lawsuit. She wouldn't have filed a lawsuit if he would have kept paying her. Here's the reason why he stopped. If you sign an NDA, all right, here, I'll do one better. Christy Hemme. Now, her name has never been made public, but we put two and two together and everybody narrows it down to be Christy Hemme. All right. You say to yourself, okay, she signed an NDA. She doesn't reveal any information. But wait, the Securities and Exchange Commission talked about her refusing his sexual advances and him derailing her career. Isn't that a violation of the NDA? She told the Securities and Exchange Commission what happened. No, it's not a violation. Thank you, Ann Callis. I almost said Ann Coulter. Ann Callis. Thank you very much, Michael. So the reason why it's not a violation of the NDA is because of the courts. The courts subpoena you or they require you to talk about your relationship with Vince McMahon. Even if there's an NDA, you have to tell them. When you swear under oath, tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, you have to tell it. There is no violation of the NDA. Where the violation of Janelle Grant was it the New York Times or whatever the newspaper was that started reporting about these payments? Somebody on Janelle Grant's side, whether it was her, a legal representative, a sister, a neighbor, brother or sister. Maybe she was zooted out of her head and it was the voice in her head talking. Whatever it was, somebody leaked out information to the news. So Vince is like, I ain't paying you no more. You violated the NDA. So Janelle Grant says, oh yeah, no problem. She hires Ann Callis, and Ann Callis has to ruin Vince in the court of public opinion in order for Janelle Grant to get paid. They didn't go to the cops. They went to the courts. And this is why every time Vince McMahon, he jaywalked. Vince McMahon is so disgusting, he can't even follow the rules of the road. She wants to crucify Vince in the court of public opinion because that's all she's got. If Vince goes to court, why do you think Vince wants it to go to arbitration? Because this is just contract dispute. I agreed to give her this money. She agreed to keep her mouth shut. The information was leaked out to the media. I stopped paying her. She went and got a lawyer, went to court, suing me and accusing me of trafficking and all this other stuff. And you ask yourself a question. If Vince and John Laurinaitis did all this stuff, she could have went to a lawyer, went to the cops a couple of years ago, and still broke the bank, suing Vince for all of this. She went and signed an NDA instead. Now, the idea of her being under all this medication that only worked whenever she was around Vince. It's like one of those bad Star Trek episodes. Janelle Grant is fine. She's talking, with her girlfriends. They're talking about legal stuff. They're like, oh, did you see on Law and Order and this and that? And then Vince pushes a button. He poo-poo on my head. They're trying to make you think that Vince drugged her and totally ruined her health for 3 years because the court says, wait a minute, this is a very smart woman. She went to college. She's smart. She's very intelligent. She signed the contract. She knew what she was signing. So what's the argument here? Well, she signed it under duress. It's interesting that she only realized that she signed it under duress when the checks stopped coming. See where I'm going with this? I'm not pro-Vince. I don't want Vince back in the WWE. If it ends up that she was just kinky and Vince found his freak after 60 years of trying and the relationship fell south and Vince fucked her over with the money, yeah, I let her get paid the millions that she was still owed, fine. But if it ends up that Vince is just a creepy, rich fucking billionaire that finds women that'll, do things, and then once they're done, listen, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. You promised me, don't tell anybody. Okay, here's a couple of million. Here, how much you want? Unfortunately for Christy Hemme, she's like, fuck you. I don't want to sleep with you. And Vince could not succeed. So Vince ruined her career. Do you know when all the women will talk? When Vince dies. When Vince McMahon passes away, some of these women will come out and they will say things. And I'm not accusing them of lying, but it's going to be really hard for Vince McMahon, 6 feet down, to come out and say, that never happened. Shut up. You're a liar. Once Vince dies, you're going to hear all these insane stories. They're going to say Vince fucked goats in front of people. There's going to be so many claims of wild. You're going to have women come out of the woodwork. I slept with Vince. He threatened to kill my family if I said anything. He wouldn't even give me a pack of gum. And he can't defend it. Can't defend it. Vince is an evil billionaire that gets what he wants. But if you've ever watched the BET channel, if you ever watched Lifetime, if you ever watched the soap opera channels, there are women that look for elderly billionaires to break the bank. I mean, probably the most legendary one in recent memory is Anna Nicole Smith. Oh, she loved him like a father. What was he, 94? I mean, his peepee was the size of a pinky. You know, I mean, there are women, that doesn't make them evil, but there are women, when you see singles night, they still do singles night. And you go there, oh my God, look at him. He must have money. Ah! You know, it happens, guys. It happens. Not defending Vince, but that Securities and Exchange Commission, when they went back to Vince's lawyer and says, listen, you got to give WWE $1.2 million back. Not billion, million. And you're going to be fined $400,000. I think Vince probably said, could you give me 1 second? Can I just put you on hold for a second? And Vince was like, that's like $50 to us. Securities and Exchange Commission told a multi-billionaire your fine is $400,000. $400,000. So now what happens? The Securities and Exchange Commission found no illegal behavior. He withheld the information. There was nothing in the SEC report that he did anything criminal to Janelle Grant. Don't you think that he was cooking the books and he also was doing something grossly illegal? And the Security Exchange Commission would be even more concerned about it? Wouldn't they refer it to maybe some higher authority? They didn't do any of that. So when Janelle Grant's lawyer, Ann Callis, over the weekend makes a statement and says, that proves that, no. What does that prove? That proves is that they found almost nothing. They fined him $400,000. He's a multi-billionaire. Your only shot of getting awarded in court is if this Southern District in New York arrests him, finds him accountable, and indicts him. That's your ammunition in court. But if that Southern District of New York comes back and says, we can't find nothing, that issue in court is dead. It's dead because Vince has text messages. Vince has proof. And I'll say this against Vince McMahon. I don't like Vince anymore, but I'll say this. The guy's a fucking billionaire. Even if he had a Joe Biden brain right now, he'd be paying people an awfully gross amount of money to say, listen, how do I cover my ass so I don't get in trouble in the future? When Vince McMahon was sleeping with this woman, this guy knew, because of his Christy Hemme experience, because of other people's experience, that if this woman turns out to be fucking fatal attraction, bitch, he's prepared for it. This is a billionaire. So Ann Callis, her only chance of getting anything is to just repeatedly make these statements and call him this and call him that and accuse him of trafficking and this and that. If John Laurinaitis was truly part of this criminal activity, John Laurinaitis is this. You don't think that the feds would have offered him a deal? Look, tell us some information and we won't look into you. You see any proof, any documentation, any rumors that John Laurinaitis is turning state's evidence against Vince McMahon? No. Ann Callis can't even get John Laurinaitis on her side. And this is not because Johnny Ace is dedicated to Vince. Remember his statement. I was under Vince's control. You're not under his control anymore. If he was that evil of a man, then do the right thing. Do the right thing. Uncover that stuff. They're not even doing that. So that is why this case with Vince all stems on the District Court of New York. If they come back and they say, we ain't got nothing, that case in court is simply Vince saying we had a relationship. There's no criminal activity. Look at all this behavior. And Callis will come back and say she was drugged. She was drugged. And then they'll find all these instances where she was doing regular stuff. And then they're going to say, okay, were you out of your mind when you did this, when you wrote this, when you did this, when you washed your clothes and you wiped your ass and you went here and you filed this and you wrote this up and you worked? They'll get statements from employees when she did her job. When somebody rang the phone and she picked up the phone, instead of saying, "Good afternoon, World Wrestling Entertainment," did she call up and say, you know, this guy has billions. He's got too much money to spend. It'll be his pleasure to rip the shit apart in court. SEC just gave him a slap on the wrist. The Southern District Court of New York does the same. That case with Janelle Grant is dead. That's why, again, we can take the route like 95% of everybody else out there and just the evil Vince. But at the end of the day, the more you look into this, if you're really, really honest about it, it looks like Vince is getting away with it. It sure looks that way. Sure feels that way. So that's my honest take on it. That's my honest take. So who's the gentleman that sent me this super chat early on? Who's this gentleman that sent this? Because I got to give a shout out to somebody because he was generous enough to send a little contribution to the show. Police Squad, why am I so sure that Vince and Johnny Ace won't do any jail time? Hopefully I just explained it. Keep in mind that the SEC only brought up two women. Maybe that's the only two women that he misappropriated funds or, didn't file it right away or withheld information. But the thing is, there was no criminal activity discussed at all. Not even a shred of it. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. So this is why I truly believe, and listen, if it ends up that Vince was just a freak and she was just a freak, do they ultimately down the line pay tribute to Vince McMahon? If Vince McMahon did not commit any crimes, how is that handled? How's that's the thing that I truly don't know the answer. I don't know how you celebrate Vince's legacy. They just did that Netflix docuseries that, really left him, not in the greatest of light. But if it ends up that, hey, me and my wife were separated, I'm a dominant person. I wanted, that type of a woman and I found one and she was into it just as much as me. Yeah, that's like weird. And it's just bizarre behavior, but there are X-rated videos with some wild fetishes. I don't know. I don't know how you handle it. I don't know how you handle it. By the way, the other day we were Grok happy. By the way, that's how I did that picture. I went on Grok. Did anybody find a little Easter egg in this photo? Shout out to anybody in the chat room right now that could find the little Easter egg on that picture. I made that picture through Grok. Can anybody find the Easter egg for everybody listening on the audio side of things later on? It's the photo of the thumbnail of Vince and John Laurinaitis behind bars in jail. Anybody find the little Easter egg in that photo? Tyrese says the button. No, the button has nothing to do with it. Jeff R. got it. The numbers on the jumpsuit. Those numbers are the same numbers of Nails. Anybody remember Nails in the WWF who also had a big falling out with Vince McMahon? When I made the outfits, I said the patch must be the numbers 902714. That was Nails' numbers. So for anybody that wanted to know that. We were on Patreon Tuesday, live on the show. We were doing like a whole bunch of Grok stuff. I can't post the Tessa Blanchard photos here. I would definitely get knocked off of YouTube, but it's pretty wild on Grok. If you word it the right way, they will make you a picture of Tessa Blanchard wearing a certain outfit. She doesn't, listen, I don't think she deserves it, but we were coming up with some wild ones. Somebody wanted to see a picture of Vince Russo and Jim Cornette making out. They came up with this. What's funny about this one is, I don't know, but Jim Cornette likes to kiss chins, and Vince Russo likes to kiss the underneath of a nostril. That's a freaky picture. That looks real, man. My favorite one, listen, we did about 100 of them the other day. My favorite one I told Grok to draw me a picture of Tony Khan inside a Chuck E. Cheese. And when he did it, and then I said, draw me a picture of Tony Khan inside of Chuck E. Cheese with angry rats. And one of the pictures that came up was this. Look at the rats. I was dying laughing. I said, draw me a picture of Tony Khan in a Chuck E. Cheese with angry rats. And that's what we got, man. It's fucking great shit. By the way, speaking of AEW, I just want to share with you something, and we'll get into your questions for the rest of the show. You know, if anybody has checked out the first couple of episodes, is that pubic hair flying around? See hair. I know. It's not a pubic hair. Pubic hairs are too heavy. They would fall right to the floor. Don't ask me how I know that. I don't know if you caught the first 2 episodes of This Week in Wrestling History for this season. We now include all the AEW history. And this week coming up, there is a shitload of AEW history on there. Unfortunately, this week is the anniversary also the passing of Jay Briscoe. But I've covered AEW pretty fairly. Even with Collision last night. Yeah, the Jericho Dax match was not very good. But overall, I thought the show was better than recent months. The card had bigger names on it. I think I've been very, very fair with AEW recently. But when it comes to Adam Copeland, calling him Cope just is not good. Calling him Cope, it just sounds stupid to me. So you'll all appreciate this. So I post a tweet. Now, if you notice on Twitter, I don't post much. I'm starting to post more, but I don't post much. It's usually to plug the shows, or if I really have an opinion about something, I'll post it. So I posted something last week about Adam Copeland. And for those that have video, if you look at your screen, I posted this. It's a picture of my dog. I happen to catch him at the right moment, and it looks like he's laughing. It's the cutest picture around. That is a legit photo. And I took the picture and I wrote my dog's reaction to Coop, or Cope, or COPD, or NOPE, or COPE, Cope. I said, there's an old saying, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I could only think that maybe his old nickname before Edge was Cope amongst his friends, which kind of makes sense. His last name is Copeland. Hey, Cope, come here. And I said, 99% of us are not his friends, and I just think the name change is unnecessary. All right? Not much controversial, right? Do you know because of that tweet, I got blocked on Twitter by 5, as far as I know so far, 5 people in AEW. One person I honestly felt I was friends with. And I've talked to this person privately. Not only did this person unfollow me, but he blocked me too. And I'm not going to say who the names are, but I will tell you who led the pack. Not Adam Copeland, but Dax Harwood. I know Dax has blocked a shitload of people, but I'm like, I didn't even fucking bring you up. I mean, I know this is rated FTR, whatever it is, but because I post a picture of my dog and saying that I don't like the Cope name, 5 people in AEW blocked me. I haven't had anybody other than, some listeners, followers, block me. When I saw the block, and how I found out about it was there's someone who I followed and I didn't see any posts come up. And I looked up the name, and then when I went to the name, I saw just a white box, and I said, oh, did this guy block me? And I click on it, and it says, I've been blocked. I was like, oh, shit. Then I started looking at some others, and sure enough, Dax and, 3 others, plus the one that started it. I was like, wow, man, these are really sensitive babies over there. I mean, I'm not going to change my news reporting. I'm not going to change my constructive criticism. I'm not going to change what I praise about them or what I don't like about them. I'm going to cover them on the history shows. Nothing changes, but man, you got some sissies over there. I mean, some real-time sissies. I would love to reveal the name of one of the others because he's a really, really likable person in AEW. He's a veteran too. You could probably figure it out. But I was like, holy shit, man. I praise him and joke like once in a while. And I get over that. Unbelievable, man. All right. Before we get to other questions, just for a brief moment, because I know a lot of you wanted me to talk about this. Odyssey Jones, he broke his silence. Now, tomorrow night on the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show, Kevin and I will be covering Raw. We'll also talk about Odyssey Jones. We're also going to talk about Vince McMahon. We're going to get into the McBox score and why it's the bottom of the ninth for Janelle Grant. They're going to need to score 8 runs if they're going to win this thing against Vince. You know, we'll talk about that tomorrow, the McBox score. I've been pretty good with my thumbnails lately. But we will talk about Odyssey Jones too. Because if you remember when he first got fired, we speculated why. And then somebody told us we were right. And then we didn't hear nothing since then. Well, Odyssey Jones broke his silence yesterday. And it ends up the person who gave Kevin and I the information was actually true. What I totally did not realize is that Odyssey Jones only lives about 30 minutes away from me. Not even. I'm not going to take a ride by his house. But for those that did not see it, Odyssey Jones posted a video. And by the way, anybody get the Easter egg from this thumbnail of Odyssey Jones? Anybody get the Easter egg from this one? If you listen to the news update today, you know what the Easter egg is. But I'll reveal what the Easter egg is in a moment. But he posted a video from his house, and he said that because of legal reasons, he could not talk about this sooner. But he has filed an injunction in court, and he denies that he assaulted anybody. And he is now suing this person for defamation. He's suing this person for ruining his WWE career, hurting his livelihood, maybe permanently damaging his name, and he emphatically denies it. And yes, Jeff is 2 for 2 tonight. That quote is O.J. Simpson's quote. I'm absolutely 100% not guilty. It came to me because Odyssey Jones was the OJ, the big OJ. If you remember with the New Day stuff, Kevin and I said they should call him the big OJ because they have Big E, call him the big OJ. And then OJ Simpson. So yeah, that's why we did that thumbnail. By the way, everybody's asking me, where did you get that great video? Because if anybody looks at Odyssey Jones's video, it is grainy, it is shitty. And people are like, how the fuck did you get that screenshot? Ancient Chinese secret. If anybody knows why I said that, props to you. And that means you're old. So he denies it emphatically. I've had quite a few of you in the last 24 hours ask me, do I believe him? And my answer to that is this. There have been many people who have smiles on their faces and behind the scenes are the biggest abusers. So just because Odyssey Jones comes off like this big, giant cream puff doesn't mean that he is in real life. My gut feeling is that he's telling the truth. I truly, you know why I think that? Because the fact that he's going this hard and going through the legal process, if he was guilty in any way, shape, or form, it could backfire on you big time to take this route and lose or something else come out. As far as what people are telling me, he's got no history of violence. No ex-girlfriends, nobody in his past other than the one individual who claims that he did. I've had a few people tell Kevin and I over the last couple of months that somebody who apparently knows this significant other, the relationship ended in a very, very bad way. And this was retaliation. I don't know what's the truth. I don't know him personally. My gut feeling tells me that he's being honest. But again, I've seen people over the years, you think of the nicest people around and they're evil. So we have to wait and see. He is taking indie bookings, by the way. So Odyssey Jones is going to start the redemption tour just to clear his name. I mean, but, I don't know. I don't know what happens. Does he end up back in the WWE? Possibly. WWE never acknowledged his firing. They've never acknowledged why he was fired. So, yeah, I'm sure a media scrum and a question would come to Triple H's way. How could you hire this guy back? You have to pass that bridge when you get to it. But for now, Odyssey Jones taking this person to court to I don't know if it'll clear his name, but if that person made him suffer, he's going to make that person suffer. And he's going to do it through the legal chains. So my gut feeling tells me tells me that he's being honest. We'll see. We will see what happens. All right. Let's get into a couple of questions and a couple of super chats along the way. I want to thank everybody for hanging out today. We got almost 400 of you live, which is awesome. If you're enjoying the show, take a moment, hit that thumbs up. The more those come in, especially live, the more that YouTube sends the live recommendation to others. Even the haters out there, why am I being recommended this? So let's shout out Mr. Ronnie. Ronnie's asking, how's Bruno? And can I please talk about Eric Bischoff defending Hulk Hogan getting booed on Raw? Bischoff actually said that Hogan got booed because California is anti-Trump and everyone already knew that. I like Eric Bischoff. To me, in the annals of wrestling history, he did a lot of good. A lot of shit went south also. I understand podcasting is a business. I understand Hulk Hogan's your friend. Have a set of balls and just say, look, he's my friend. I'm not going to throw him under the bus. Kev brought up a very intelligent point last Monday. 5 minutes after, or 10 minutes after Raw ended. Before anybody else thought about it, for the most part. Bischoff is saying Hogan got booed because of his affiliation with Trump. What about Undertaker? Undertaker did a fucking podcast with him. It was Undertaker, Kane, and Trump. And Undertaker got cheered beyond belief. If this was because of Trump affiliation, how does Undertaker get nearly 100%? You mean to tell me that almost 100% of that 18,000 seat arena were all under the same mic? Were they all taking the same Vince drugs? That Hogan, boo. Undertaker, cheer. Trump, bad. Trump, good. Bischoff either is talking out of his ass because he doesn't want to stab his friend in the back, or he's just ignorant. And I said this on the news update, I think Wednesday. I'll say it again here now. The reports that WWE knew it would be about 50-50, that all these WrestleVote people put out, is bullshit. Bullshit. There ain't no fucking way you're going to tell me that the first Raw on Netflix globally is going to put someone who they're going to push this year with Real American Beer and the legacy of Hulkamania and Saturday Night's Main Event and WrestleMania and everything else. And the first time you reintroduce him to fans globally, you put him in a fucking arena that you knew he would get booed out of the building. You really think WWE would have done that? Seriously? Bullshit. Bullshit. You think executives for Netflix and everybody else, yeah, but Hogan is going to get eaten up out of the building. He's with Trump. What about Undertaker? Oh, no, Undertaker's different. No, the reason why Hogan got booed out of the building is because people have realized over the years that Hogan is in his own little bubble. And Hogan believes his fucking gimmick. Hogan is not, Hogan is a selfish man. Hogan is for Hogan. All right. Undertaker and Austin and everybody else who's a Hall of Famer also for themselves, but they also genuinely authentic appreciation for the fans and the support. You could smell when someone is just there because of their own brand and their own gain. Hogan never wanted to say hello to fans, unless you paid for an autograph in his store. Even Flair at some points. Flair wanted to say hello when it was time to say goodbye. And once Flair became comfortable again, Flair don't want to socialize with nobody. Hogan is just not a likable person anymore. He never went on the speaking engagements that everybody wanted him to do. Of course, people came to his aid and defended him. But for Eric Bischoff, who is a very, very intelligent man, to turn around and actually try to make people believe that 18,000 fans in unison all had the same mindset. Hogan, Trump, Taker, Trump, Hogan, boo, Taker, cheer, but Trump, fuck out of here. They don't like Hogan because Hogan is not a likable guy anymore. He was the biggest person in my lifetime when I was a kid growing up because my grandmother was obsessed with Hulkamania. And I loved my grandmother to death. All right. But over the years, he's not an admirable person. He's not a role model. He's a legendary person who's just hasn't passed on yet. I hate to say it like that. He is a legendary Hall of Famer. People will put him in a category like who's a really miserable Hall of Fame caliber baseball player. I wouldn't even say Barry Bonds because I think Barry Bonds is mellowed over the years. Alex Rodriguez, for a little while, I thought was going to end up becoming one of the most hated baseball players who should be in the Hall of Fame that doesn't go in the Hall of Fame. But A-Rod totally repaired his image. Maybe Curt Schilling, but then Curt Schilling got sympathy because of health and other stuff. Hogan is just that Hall of Famer that just hasn't aged well. Jimmy Hart, he's a wonderful man. Jimmy Hart is a simple, likable, he doesn't like drama. Hogan is he's a shell of what he was. It's like an bitter old man wearing a Hulk Hogan costume, he's almost like the white Virgil. And Virgil was a likable guy, but Virgil, hey, you want to take a picture with me? Yeah, let's take a picture. Okay, give me $50. At least Virgil had a little bit of a sense of humor. Hulk is just, I don't know, man. I don't know. Thank you for that. Curated Vibrations, thank you for the 5 spot. Jeff Hardy says that if he didn't have his drug issues, he would have been bigger than John Cena. Curated Vibrations tends to agree. Jeff Hardy in 2006 to 2008 was God tier. Wishful thinking. I have been watching wrestling before Jeff Hardy and John Cena came onto the scene. Jeff Hardy would have never been bigger than John Cena. WWE would not have allowed it. Jeff Hardy was a very popular guy. Kids love to do the painting. And Jeff Hardy was very, very friendly with fans, but Jeff Hardy was not that mass marketable person. He's not that person that would have went on Good Morning America and Fox News and go represent WWE at a presidential convention or something. Jeff Hardy would have been an extremely one of the most popular wrestlers of this generation, but he would not have been bigger than John Cena. John Cena, you saw it coming that he was going to be that role model. He was going to be that guy. You remember, I've beat this to death over the years, but there's still tens of thousands of you that remember this. Like 9 years ago, Kevin and I did an episode, and I said, I think Roman Reigns is going to get the John Cena push. Kevin is like, what are you talking about? He doesn't even wrestle like Cena. I said, no. And it was my fault for not being clearer. He was going to be that next role model. Not be kiss babies like John Cena, but that one guy that is the guy, the number one, the role model for that company, Roman Reigns. Just like Cody Rhodes is now. If you look at it, technically for me, and I know there's debate to this, for me, since watching WWF in 1979, WWF's top guys, as far as role models, and the guy, to me, was Backlund, Hogan, Bret Hart, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. There's a lot of gaps, but Shawn Michaels was never that guy because Shawn Michaels had a little bit of a, history, not clean cut, some controversy here and there. But for the WWF, it was Backlund, Hogan, Bret Hart, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. That's how I look at it. Jeff Hardy would have never been on that list. Popularity, absolutely. But he would not have been WWE's number one guy to go to. Couldn't. But you know what? Props to Jeff Hardy for thinking that way. That shows me honesty that he truly, truly regrets some of his behavior in the past. There are some people out there like, look, I did a lot of things over my lifetime I'm not proud of, but I wouldn't change a thing. It made me the better person that I am today. That's what some people would say. For Jeff Hardy to say what he said, to me, that is really being brutally honest about yourself. And I commend that. I can't say anything negative about that, about Jeff Hardy. Good for him. But he's wrong. What's up, Puffy89? Thank you for the 10 spot. AEW Grand Slam Australia. Is it a pay-per-view? Virtually no build in a month. Outside of the women's match, no banner in the arena, like All In. It's not being treated like a pay-per-view. Well, it is still a month away. I think in the next week or two, you will see pushes for it. As far as I was told, it's not a pay-per-view, but it's got to be. It's got to be. You know what I would do, honestly? I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but you know what? I would give it as a special treat for Max subscribers. I know that sounds fucked up for non-Max subscribers, but put something on Max. Just to try to, just a little extra for Max subscribers. You get the live feed for AEW's event in Australia. That's what I would do. I haven't heard anything about pay-per-view. There's a time difference. Anybody know what time it is in Australia right now? Could someone check that for me and really check? Because I'll get a response. It'll be like, it's 4 a.m., it's 6 a.m., it's 11:15, it's 8:08. But as far as I am understanding, it's not a pay-per-view. I would not do like a $10, $20 thing. You either charge people or you don't. That's how I look at it. Okay, it's 1:05 p.m. right now. So if that thing starts, let's say at 7 o'clock, that's 6 hours from now, their time, which would be 3 a.m. over here. Nobody, not many. Listen, I'll say this. There was a decent number of people online that were watching New Japan's Wrestle Dynasty last week because I didn't do my news update until 3:30 in the morning. I waited for Wrestle Dynasty to finish to put the results in the report. I was surprised how many people online were talking about it. So, okay, never mind. Kevin Milwaukee says it's 10:05 a.m. See what I mean? It's 10:05 a.m. over there right now. So that's even worse because then that means 9 hours from now would be 7 o'clock. So 9 hours from now would be 6 o'clock in the morning. That's even worse because 2, 3 in the morning, you're like, all right, I'll stay up a couple extra hours or maybe I'll go to sleep at 11. I'll set my alarm for 2. I used to do that with ECW. When ECW was on Prime on the MSG network here in New York, if I remember correctly, it was 2 a.m. And I would go to sleep some weekends. I'd go to sleep like 11 or 12. I set my alarm for 2. I'd get up, watch ECW, go right back to sleep. Difference is it's only 1 hour. AEW, the Kangaroos will be sleeping before that pay-per-view ends. So it's not being treated like a pay-per-view. It's kind of like a house show that got too much attention. It's interesting. I think that got too much attention because if it's not a pay-per-view, it should not have been hyped up the way it was. It should have just been regional. But, they chose a gigantic building. They moved it to a smaller building, but that building that they replaced it with is still too big. But they didn't have many options. So as of now, what I would do, put it on Max as a treat or put it on a tape replay, a tape delay. Stream it at 6 o'clock at night the next day. If I get more information, which I know I will share it. I will definitely share it. And I'll let you know. All right, we have some channel members we got to shout out as well. But before I do that, Bob the Builder, thank you, my friend. Did I catch the Collision main event last night? Yes, I did. I got into detail, step by step, what happened after the match was over. You have Brian Keith. I remember you have Brian Keith and Big Bill get involved. And then here comes FTR and Adam Copeland to make the save. And then out of nowhere, here comes Moxley. And then here comes fucking the Outrunners. And then here comes Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli. And then here comes Powerhouse Hobbs. And too much. I mean, it just reminded me of the times of maybe not even WCW, but TNA was doing that for a little while. Everybody talks about WCW's 2000 era. What about the TNA shit that would go off the other way it would do sometimes? Some of that was pretty god-awful. I wouldn't call it awful, but I will say this. Jericho looks tired. I don't even want to say he looks old. Of course he's aged. I mean, he's older. I mean, let's be honest. But he looks tired. Jericho could still bang out a good match. And we've seen him work some pretty damn decent matches in 2024. But he looks tired. And my God, over the years, we've made fun of Hogan and Hogan's chair shots in WCW. I'm sorry, Daphne, for using a Daphne sign, but remember Hogan, what was it, to Conan? And remember when, I think it was Conan, he had his head hanging over the apron, and literally Hulk Hogan went like this. He went up to him and went, honestly, it was like the worst chair shots. Hogan had to, and here's Jericho with the belt. He walks up to him, and Dax sells it. He sold it almost, I'm exaggerating, but he sold it almost like Shawn Michaels selling for Hulk Hogan. And I'm not saying it because Dax blocked me. I don't give a fuck he blocked me. He is who he is, Everybody forgets that I was one of Dax's big supporters. Remember Public Enemy number 3? When he was trying to be the peace. Remember I put the Peacemaker? I did a spoof of John Cena's The Peacemaker, and I put fucking Dax Harwood as the Peacemaker with the Young Bucks and CM Punk and everybody else. That guy gets butthurt because I don't like cope. You cope with it. That's how he copes with it. He blocks people. Sissy. Fucking sissy. But that main event yesterday, Jericho looks tired. And that main event was not very good. It's not very good. If any of you out there did not see it yet, watch the last 3 minutes. And then, you'll be like, what the fuck was that? I don't know. It was just not very good. Not very good. Shout out to Curated Vibrations again. And happy 9 months as a channel member. Thank you very much, Curated. Actually, let's throw a little shout out banner while we're getting into this. Curated says Janelle Grant was a woman sleeping with a rich man for money. That's it. That's all it is. She's not a victim. She's a hoe. And they are pretty common. I wouldn't call her a hoe. Look, I'm not saying this to be nice or politically correct. I speak my mind, whether people like it or not. You know what? If you said to me, DT, what do you truly think about Janelle Grant? This is what I think about Janelle Grant. Let's finish the shout outs on the scroll. These are all channel members on YouTube. I love the name Tiramisu. That's a good wrestling name. Tiramisu. If you said to me, DT, your honest opinion about Janelle Grant. Janelle Grant lost her parents. I think Janelle Grant was missing that father figure in her life. She needed someone to be the dominant figure in her life. It's pretty common for relationships to have someone who's the one who's controlling, not controlling like, clean my toes. Hurry up, woman. Pick that up. No, I don't mean dominant like that. I mean like dominant like somebody who steps up, takes initiative, takes control of a situation. I think Janelle Grant was a very depressed woman who found Vince McMahon, saw him as a father figure. Vince, obviously, great in bed, apparently. And those sexual fantasies, turned into something insane. You look at 50 Shades of Grey and you look at Eyes Wide Shut, you look at stuff like that. Just because it's in the movie doesn't mean there aren't people in real life that are like that. So I think Janelle Grant was someone who really, really fell for Vince and then realized that Vince was more out for the P word. He was out for sex more than anything else. Listen, I think Janelle Grant made Vince McMahon feel younger. I think him dyeing his hair and growing a mustache and, changing his look a little bit, I think that was so he would portray himself to not be close to 80 years old. I think she made him feel young. But unfortunately, Vince, that power, ruined the relationship and she was scorned. She was scorned. And we are where we are now. That's my honest take. I don't think any illegal activity happened. I don't. I just don't believe that she was medicated for 3 years and didn't know what she was doing. You know what I mean? It's like when you actually take a step back, when I made the remark earlier, I wasn't trying to be funny, so to speak, but all her interactions in real life, everyday activities, her friends, work, going out, doing chores, paying bills, making phone calls, doing this, doing that. So the medication only worked between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m. It's just something doesn't pass the smell test for me. Just like the leaf fitting stuff and just like a few others. You take a step back and you say, something just doesn't make sense about it. And 9 times out of 10, it ends up that our intuitions are correct. So thank you for that, Curated. Austin Nance, much love, my friend. Austin Nance has been a channel member. Get this. Not for 1 month, not for 2 months, not for a year, not for 2 years. He's a channel member here for 46 months. We only have about 40 channel members here. All those video episodes and everything we do it for just 40. But he is, I think, the OG. as far as channel members here. In fact, almost all of our channel members that are here have been here for a couple of years now. Austin, thank you very much, my friend. Thank you. Mystic says, rest in peace, Jack Stain. He passed away. I don't know if you checked out the end of Monday's DTKC show. I brought up Jack Stain at least 3 different shows. In fact, on Monday for about, I don't know if I have the tribute over here, but on Monday for the final 20 minutes of the DTKC show, I tributed every single person who died in 2024 in wrestling, not of the world. 80 people. 80 people we got into. You had other websites that were paying tributes to everybody who died in wrestling, and they had 20. We came up with 80 people, and Jack Stain was on that list. So go check it out. Go check it out. So thank you for that. Jeff R. is a channel member now for 3 months. Thank you, Jeff. Do I think Money in the Bank has run its course? No. No, it's what happens after Money in the Bank. The Tiffany Stratton win jumped the shark about a month and a half ago. She cashed it in. Now we don't have to talk about it. But before you know it, here comes the fucking briefcase again. I don't have any issue with Money in the Bank. I actually think it's a great way for someone to possibly get a championship without having to have a build-up big feud with it. And I know, I've said that in the past, people should have feuds and good storylines to lead up to a championship. But sometimes someone just gets on fire. And, you want to strike while the iron is hot. Tiffany Stratton, they knew that she's going to be a superstar. And she won that briefcase, and they said, okay, when the time is right. But what they did right about Tiffany Stratton was they had her have issues with Nia Jax. They also had her have issues with Liv Morgan. She had issues with numerous women. So when she would tease cashing it in early on, especially on Nia Jax, it was kind of funny. She's about to cash in. Nia looks, oh, what the fuck you think you're doing? And she's like, no, I wasn't doing anything. But it just got old. It should have happened probably a month and a half ago. Or they should not have teased it so early, But I don't have any issue with Money in the Bank. It's usually what we have issue with is how it's handled afterwards. I'll never forget Carmella. Didn't Carmella set a record? WWE actually has this in the record books that she has the longest reign of having the briefcase without cashing it in. And I'm like, how is that a record? That's embarrassing. Like, she had it for what, close to a year and didn't cash it in? That's when you're like, come on already. How do you go a whole year and the champion doesn't get laid out once where you get your opportunity? So that's, I think, the problem that a lot of people have. I think that's the problem a lot of people have. Shout out to Based Beerus, God, and I can't see the rest of it. I will acknowledge you. Okay. Based Beerus, Beer Us, God of Seduction. What's up, Vince? He still can't believe how Vince is gone and how his reputation is destroyed. Hogan, too. Not that I sympathize, but I got used to the WWE narratives. Believe it or not, Hogan, there is still a chance. The only way Hulk Hogan is going to get over in the WWE again is he's got to eat some humble pie. And I don't mean getting attacked in the ring and doing the job. Hogan's going to need to do a Chris Van Vliet interview. Hogan is going to need to open up, show a little of that side that doesn't come out and say, listen, I admit that you just don't have it in you. You don't want to face people that are going to, confront you about some of your, actions in the past. Just say you're embarrassed, you're afraid, you can't handle it. That's human. I think he's going to have to do a Chris Van Vliet interview. I think they're going to have to align him with like a baby face here and there, John Cena, Cody Rhodes. He's going to have to do multiple segments. I think when the perception is that Hogan is having a good time, other than what's in it for me, brother, I think that's when fans would start to buy in again. But these periodic appearances are not going to help him at all. But they ain't nobody on God's green earth that's going to say to me that WWE knew he was going to get booed out of the building and still put him out there because it's despite it being the first Netflix and being global and everything else, and you're going to put that guy out there. Why? Think about it like this. Why would WWE do that to Hogan? If they truly cared about Hogan and wanted to, bring him back and rebuild and, put him out there and get back, the love and everything, why would you put him out there in California like that if you knew? If you knew. Like, I could see if somebody was like, setting him up. Why would WWE do that? They're not stupid. There ain't no way that they expected Hogan to get that reaction. No way. No way. And as far as Vince goes, look, unfortunately, being a cheating husband and a cheating father and some of his answers on that Netflix doc will always make Vince McMahon a polarizing figure. But if this Janelle Grant case gets thrown out, and let me tell you something, I don't think Ann Callis can settle. I don't think she could settle. If she settles, even if Vince gives Janelle Grant $10 million, if Ann Callis and Janelle Grant settle with Vince to drop this case, she comes off as just everyone else that has worked out a deal with Vince. This is like a public NDA. This was an NDA that just went through the courts this time around. So I think it's either all or nothing for Ann Callis and Janelle Grant. That's what it comes off to me. If he ends up getting off on this, there's going to be people online that are going to hate him even more because he got away with it. But you got to realize in this world, if you have money, you have power, sometimes you can get things that other people would not be able to. And unfortunately, you get greedy and, it's not something that I admire. But do you erase him from history? I don't think so. I don't think so. That intro for last Monday's Raw, you heard him for a brief second. The boyhood dream has come true. That's all you heard. And I didn't see anybody in uproar. I didn't see anybody, well, they played Vince's voice. So a few pussies did that. I think if Vince gets off of this, he will be acknowledged, but unfortunately, when it's his time to go, there will be a tribute video. There will absolutely be a tribute video on TV. And you know what? I will bet you anything in this world, even though a lot of people in the IWC hate the man, and I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed that Vince put himself in this situation and got that greedy that I can't even celebrate, what he did for me as, being a wrestling fan. It pisses me off that I can't celebrate him. I don't like him anymore. I'm not admiring him. I could sit here and say, wow, man, I hope at 80 years old, I could get a piece of ass like that and not have to pay for it, but I just don't like the man anymore. But I will bet you anything. Remember this conversation. I'll remember from the thumbnail. I bet anything you want to bet that if Vince gets off on this case, nothing else comes out. The day he goes, WWE puts a tribute on television. I would say 90% of the fans in the crowd will cheer him. Because he's dead, and they'll have that moment of just, appreciation for what he did for wrestling. Personally, piece of shit. Professionally, though, without him, would we have gotten what we got? And I'm only saying that as of now. If things come out later on, totally different ball game. Totally different ball game. Thank you for that. Nick N. Austin has been MIA for the past couple of big events. Do I think there's heat or money issue, or that he's just not interested? Austin, I say this in a few different ways. As far as I know, there's no heat. Austin really picks his moments. Austin is not on the board of directors. Austin does not wrestle. He had, the match. He got involved with Kevin Owens and Vince McMahon. He had a great time. Look at Undertaker. I put Undertaker and Austin almost in the same category. Undertaker, even if I'm correct, even said recently that maybe he shouldn't have did WrestleMania 40. Kind of got lost in the shuffle when you think about it. Austin, when he comes out, they want it to be that moment where everybody loses their shit. Like, what? He's here? Like, they don't want him to be and plus somebody else. So I think it just was you had enough legends for those moments. It's not that he wasn't needed right now, but he'll be utilized in a way that maybe Rock is not there the same night. Austin's moments, you really want to stand out on its own. So that's what I see. That's what I see. As far as I know, there is no heat. And Austin definitely will be back. Absolutely. All right, Scorpio 1117. Mariah May should go to the WWE. She is a huge star. I'm going to say this. Hopefully nobody gets mad at me. They already have Tiffany Stratton. They already have that look. I don't think they need Mariah May right now. You look at NXT and you look at the roster there. Why would you have Mariah May leapfrog some of the women that they're going to be bringing up? Bringing up someone to the main roster is one thing. Helping them get to the next level is another. I always bring up this example, and I'm sorry for bringing it up again, but look at Indy Hartwell. Indy Hartwell was one of my favorites in NXT. And then I saw this hashtag, give Indy a chance. And that was because Dexter Lumis was on the main roster. It's because Candice LeRae was on the main roster. It's because Johnny Gargano was on the main roster. And I was like, okay, what are you going to do once she's there? Double date? That's what you want? You want another thumb moment with Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis? It's a nice, cute moment in NXT, which is the minor leagues. But no, not for the main roster. So people were pushing Indy Hartwell in main roster, and they brought her there. And it really did not work out. Like, they had a couple of pay-per-view appearances, but Indy Hartwell never got to the level that she should have been. And that's because, as I said then, now what? You brought it to the main roster. Now what? What are you doing next? She ain't leapfrogging about 12 women there. Same thing with Mariah May. Why would you have Mariah May leapfrog all these other women that have been busting their ass, working their way up to the top? They don't need Mariah May right now. She is extremely talented, and she's extremely young, and she can go in a couple of years. If anything, I think Chris Statlander should seriously consider going to the WWE or, just work indies. Chris Statlander, look at Camille. Look at Camille. I mean, how come nobody fucking brings that up? That this debacle that happened with Mercedes Moné. See, this is something that I just want to say, and thank you again for that, Scorpio. I was teasing this early in the week, and I'll just sum it up like this. Look at Malachi Black. Malachi Black They're calling him one of the top 5 disappointments in AEW. And even Powerhouse Hobbs. Powerhouse Hobbs is getting a championship opportunity Wednesday. Everybody and their great-great-great-great-great-grandmother knows that Powerhouse Hobbs is not winning the belt on Wednesday. Where does Powerhouse Hobbs end up a month or 2 months from now? We've seen this story before. Powerhouse Hobbs right now would be the equivalent of Jaws 4 or Rocky 5. Like, we've had at least 3 or 4 moments with Hobbs over the last bunch of years. Remember, he was walking L.A., the streets of L.A., and then he's on TV, and then he's aligned with Don Callis, and then he wasn't, and then he's doing this, and then he wasn't, then he got injured, this and that. Malachi Black is not a disappointment. What is happening now, guys, right in front of your very eyes, and I'm sorry if this upsets anybody in AEW, but facts are facts. What's happening is that they wait too long for people to organically work their way to the top. They will tease matches. They will showcase matches. They will put matches out there. They'll do, things with no build. Next thing you know, a year goes by. 2 years goes by. And then that person starts to get a push once the net starts complaining. Oh, now they're finally going to push the House of Black. Oh, my God, look at what they're doing with Julie Hart. Oh, my God, look what they're doing here. And then you get this feeling like, okay, they're finally going to put the Jets behind them. And then you realize this is why they have 95 belts. We'll just put a belt on them for a little while so it feels like that they got their flowers. And then meanwhile, instead of really building a resume of tremendous opponents for their title reigns, you see, they're fighting the Outrunners and Mark Briscoe. They're fighting Aaron Solo and Serpentico. Kevin and I brought this up 3 weeks ago about Tony Storm. People thought we were lying until they looked it up. Go look up timeless Tony Storm. Go look up her opponents while she was champion. There'll be some big fucking names that don't come up. And you say to yourself, whoa, wait a minute. Timeless Tony Storm was fighting, for the most part, mid-carders. And unfortunately, Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie, they should be headlining by now. They lose 100 matches, and then they start beating nobodies, and then they cut promos on a Rampage or now Collision. We're serious. And they get a team name, and they walk around looking like $1 million, and they'll squash a jobber or two. And then what happens? Same thing that happened with Lance Archer. Same thing would happen with Powerhouse Hobbs. Same thing that happens with Brian Cage. They'll get a couple of wins against a couple of nobodies, and then they get the Dynamite match. Brian Cage versus Will Ospreay. Lance Archer versus Will Ospreay. Guess what happens? Will Ospreay wins. Now you look at Lance Archer. Oh, my God. History. Managers trading talent. Look at how that's gone. You look at AEW for 5 years. There is no growth. There's experience. If I ride a fucking bike for 5 years, I'll get better at riding the bike. That doesn't mean I'm going to win any competitions. There's no growth. There's no growth. You see the same trend over and over again. A wrestler, that you want to see go to the top. They'll give this aura that they're going to come in with a bang. They'll have a match. Then for 2 weeks, they'll cut promos. Then they'll have a little interaction with somebody somewhat high on the food chain. Then it'll be a tag match. Then they'll finally have a match. 9 times out of 10, they lose. Then we don't hear from them 2 or 3 weeks. And then they come back and they have a promo. And then they're confronted from a Serena Deeb or somebody else. And then that leads to a match 2 weeks later. And then that person, okay, they're finally giving them a push. And then that person fights a couple of more job talents. And then that person gets a secondary, a tertiary title. Then they beat fucking Michelle Nobody, number 3. And then they again, look at Tony Storm's opponents during the title reign. It'll kind of surprise you. You look at AEW's roster, they've been doing the same thing for 4.5, 5 years. You know what's funny? No, it's funny. A lot of you think that Vince Russo, Eric Bischoff, Dutch Mantel, Jim Cornette, have only in the last year and a half, been really criticizing AEW. Fact of the matter is, a shitload of you were criticizing AEW in 2020, almost 5 years ago. I and Kev on different shows were criticizing, not that we were shitting on the product, but we noticed some trends. We noticed, how people were being used. And just because someone is racking up, that's why the stats, remember the win-loss records? Why do you think Jungle Boy, who was 0-13 fighting Jericho, was this gigantic news story? Why is he getting a title shot? Should have turned into that Rocky storyline, giving a nobody an opportunity for the championship. He doesn't win, but he comes close, and then you could kind of make him a little bit of a star. Well, you see some people, you look at Orange Cassidy is a household name now in wrestling because he's been on TV for 5 years. That's because he's had all these crazy accolades and growth. And look at Shelton Benjamin now. You realize they've been on TV for months and months and months. Does it feel like they're being pushed? They're getting a little TV time. And look, now they're fighting who? The Private Party and Mark Briscoe, or the Acclaimed Mark Briscoe, whatever it is on Wednesday. Like, okay, how many months are they on TV? Does it feel like there's any growth? There is very little growth with a lot of big names. And here's a little spoiler. On Thursday's history show, I have an insane amount of history we're adding over the last 5 years. One of them is a clip from the Young Bucks from 5 years ago. They quit Twitter 5 years ago. Their father said that they quit Twitter because of the toxicity on Twitter. And on top of it, I have a clip that I'm going to play for everyone where they're making fun of the fans criticizing AEW. They're only 1 year in. And how they do it is they got a piece of property. And one of the Young Bucks is trying to make the property, it was AEW. And he's like, look at the landscape. I think we did a great job over the last year. But you know what? People think we should do this and we should change that. And we should do this. We should do this. And one of the Young Bucks just storms away. When you listen to the spoof, they're calling out the fans for criticizing the product. That was 5 years ago. There's no growth. Just because Mercedes Moné has 4 belts now, there's no growth. Does it feel like there's any growth with Camille? Does it feel like Deonna Purrazzo's had any growth? Does it feel like Taya Valkyrie's had any growth? When you look at Tony Storm's reign as champion, there's a lot of big names that are absent. Does Hikaru Shida have any growth the last couple of years? When Riho could avoid breaking a bone, does she have any growth? Julie Hart, okay, now she's manageable in the ring. She's got a great entrance. Does she have any growth? Does it feel like that, she could headline an event? No. You look at Anna Jay, you look at Sky Blue. Is there any growth there? They got a little better? Yeah, that you should when you're wrestling for 4 years. Is there any growth? You look at Powerhouse Hobbs, you look at Lance Archer, you look at Commander, you look at, but he's Ring of Honor champion. I don't give a fuck what he is. Does it feel like there's growth? No. Does it feel like Hook has any growth? Hook is people are used to now. Does it feel like Orange Cassidy has gotten any better in 5 years? It's the same fucking gimmick. So that's AEW's problem. There's no growth. People, it's a rotating cycle. Give that person a little bit of TV time and then they slowly go away. And when people start complaining online, then they suddenly appear back on TV. That's what's been going on. And that's why the ratings keep going down. There's no growth. Now you look at WWE. Does it feel like Jey Uso has had growth in the last couple of years? Does it look like Drew McIntyre has had growth in the last year or two? You know, you look at other wrestlers. You know, there's a lot of wrestlers that it doesn't feel like growth. I still can't believe that they can't fucking get the Street Profits to the next level, which is embarrassing. But you look at wrestlers in WWE, there are many wrestlers you could say there's growth. Oh, Mister, I like you, brother, but this idea, oh no, it's about the sickos. What does that even mean? It's about the sickos. That's a label that they gave for a fan base. You got to increase your fan base. Because guess what? At some point, and here, you want a little phrase? I just made it up. At some point, AEW, the sickos will also get sick of your product. Because after a while, you know, seeing the same cycle gets a little boring. That's why I stopped enjoying horror films when I was a kid. That's why I stopped watching certain genres. And after a while, seeing the same thing over and over again, you kind of get a little tired of it. So sooner or later, the sickos will get sick of it. You need to replace those sickos with other people. And the problem is, you're not getting that. Tristan wants to know what I think about the first time I saw DX invading WCW on Nitro. I thought it was awesome, man. I thought it was great. That was a case where WCW kept poking the bear and poking the bear and poking the bear. And let's not deny it. WWE was poking WCW as well with the Billionaire Ted and the Huckster and the Nacho Man and all that other stuff. But they were really pushing, you know, the poking the bear at that time. And WWE knew that they had momentum and they called them on their bluff. And they showed up at WCW and they closed the fence. And listen, you know, wrestlers will always have fun with this. But people have asked me over the years, what if the gate didn't go down? What if the gate didn't go down and DX went into the building? First of all, Nitro would have popped an insane number, but what would have happened if they let him in the ring? People going to start shooting on each other? Are WCW wrestlers going to come out and legitimately get into a fist fight? Do you just go to a commercial? Do you get security to throw them out of the building? Like, what do you think was going to happen? Would everybody have just hugged? You know, so believe me when I tell you, if Bischoff would have let DX in the building, what would have DX done? What would they have gone to the ring? Would they have told the fans, watch Monday Night Raw? Don't watch this crap? I don't know. I get this feeling that what will probably happen is Bischoff would have let him in the building. And if they dared try to go to the ring, you would have Doug Dillinger and crazy amounts of security throwing him out of the building. And I think that would have pumped up the Nitro fans. I think it would have made DX look ridiculous. You know, just because you're a popular wrestler doesn't mean you could defend yourself in real life. It would have been interesting if you would have saw a security guard punch X-Pac right in the mouth and Road Dogg would have gotten thrown to the ground and Triple H would have broken his nose. I'm not saying this to rip them. I fucking love DX, but it would not have been a good optic for WWE. I think that could have backfired clearly. I think WCW did the right thing by closing the gate down. Because if we let him in, now what? What do we do? What do we do? Plus, you got to understand something. A lot of wrestlers, they're friends in different companies. You know, even when I was doing a little bit of work, you know, towards the latter part of ECW, the final year, working for XPW in 02. You know, one thing about the Northeast wrestlers that were working for XPW, they had friends in Ring of Honor. They had friends in Combat Zone Wrestling. They had a couple of friends in WWE. Nobody was out to hurt each other. The only people that were trying to hurt each other were the promoters. It was Gabe Sapolsky at the time who did not want his Ring of Honor guys working an XPW event. In some ways, I don't blame him. It was Combat Zone Wrestling who was irate that, you know, that they had XPW come into Philly and caused issues with the State Athletic Commission. It was 3PW, Jasmine St. Clair's group. But the wrestlers were friends with each other, just like AEW. The AEW wrestlers are friends with many of the WWE wrestlers and vice versa. They're happy for each other. They want to see each other get paid. They want to see each other get work. It's unfortunately the fan bases. And, a lot of wrestlers from both sides don't do anything about that. The only time they do something is when it gets a little out of control and it becomes very one-sided. Because with all due respect, I need Dustin Rhodes open his fucking mouth once for 3 or 4 years when AEW had a little bit more momentum. Now NXT is caught up and they've surpassed them and everybody's thrown it in his face. And it's like, can we all get along? You should have said that 4 years ago. Dust. You should have said that then. A little bit late now. Sawdust. The BEP. Do I see Anna Jay in the WWE one day? Maybe. She's got some talent. She's not bad. Sure, she could show up in NXT, but right now, is she really filling a void? You can never have enough talent, but does she really fill a void? Like if she were to, let's say, leave AEW right now, would WWE pick her up? Maybe not. But I don't think she fills a void. All right. How long we've gone so far? We've gone 1 hour and 40 minutes. Let's finish this up at 10. We're at 9:45. We'll finish this at 10. Tomorrow, we got a big show tomorrow. Kevin and I will be live for the DTKC show. Now, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. That's tomorrow night. We will, what was I going to bring up? I can't remember. We were going to definitely be talking about something tomorrow. Besides Raw and events and a few other things. Well, we got a couple other topics to get into as well. Somebody asked earlier about how my dog was doing. And I think it was Ronnie, because he asked about my dog Bruno and then about the Bischoff stuff. Give everybody a little update about my dog Bruno. For those that don't know, my dog Bruno, we got a second puppy and he just turned 9 months old. He was supposed to be neutered this past week. We brought him in for blood work about 1.5 weeks ago. And keep in mind, he's only turned 9 months and he's a small dog. I'll show you all a picture of him. That's Bruno. And what happened was, his creatine levels were all out of whack. He had a lot of levels in his blood that were just really, really bad. And they would not let him get neutered. And they said that something's wrong with his kidneys. So they wanted us to get a urine sample and they wanted to check his urine because they think either he was born with one bad kidney, which means that his lifespan will not be long, or he's got damaged kidneys. Now, the problem is 3 months ago, his blood work was fine. So something happened over the last 3 months. We don't know. The only thing that me and my wife could think of is that we were giving him a lot of ground beef, a lot of protein, and maybe the protein count or maybe the fat count in the protein just was overwhelming his kidneys. So we brought the urine sample in and they said that it looked decent. So we brought him in earlier this week for more blood work. And for the last week, we totally changed his diet. And they came back and they said that his levels were much better. The only way they could determine if he was born with a bad kidney is having an ultrasound done, which we're not going to do. But whatever we did with his diet, they told us to keep doing it. And they said, as of right now, he is stable. So we had his nuts cut off on Friday. So, he's inside. I got to give him pain medicine and antibiotics after we're done with the show. We had him neutered on Friday. So he's doing good. The first night was hard. He was crying like crazy, I think more because of the anesthesia. Today, it was as if he never got the surgery. But, he's got to wear a onesie outfit so he doesn't lick his wound. But I appreciate everybody asking. He is the coolest dog, man. He is so fucking cool. It just, I'm a little shocked. Like, he's got a personality that's just outrageous. But, I also have Bella, and Bella is attached to me. Bruno is attached to my wife. Bruno plays with me like crazy too, but Bella with me, forget it. So they're good dogs. I never thought I would ever get another dog after Peanut. Took me over 10 years to accept, what happened with him. And he's been gone now for 13 years? 12 years he's been gone. So, yeah, they're doing good. So Bruno is stable. We got to get his blood work done in a couple of months again, just to see how it's going. We truly don't think that he was born with a bad kidney. We're hoping that maybe his kidneys were just overwhelmed and the creatine and stuff was spilling into his, his blood. So we'll see. We shall see. Roderick Howard giving out Tony Khan treats legends in AEW. How realistic is it that Jeff Jarrett wins the AEW world title this year, even to just drop it to Christian Cage within a month? I don't think AEW does a great job with legends. The only reason why they did what they did for Sting is because Tony Khan absolutely adored Sting. Loved him. Wanted to have him, got to have him, overpaid him, told him you will never lose. I don't criticize Sting. And Sting is a Hall of Famer, and Sting is one of the greatest wrestlers of our lifetime, greatest characters of our lifetime. Has lived a pretty clean life, but, let's be honest. Sting went to AEW. Whatever Sting wanted to do that he did. It was Sting's rules. Sting never lost a match. If you would have done that run in WWE, halfway through, fans would have booed him out of the building. Not because of Sting, but because of dissatisfaction with the way WWE is using him. I told you, Sting's career in AEW is like playing a video game and you hack it so you can never die. You hack it so you never could lose. You could just play as long as you want. And then when it's time to shut it down, you shut it down. Oh, I'm tired. I'm tired of winning. That's what I came across with Sting. Jeff Jarrett, this is how I look at it. They see the success of the publicity of John Cena having a retirement year. They see how Sting went out in AEW as a really good feel-good moment for AEW fans. So now they want to do that with Jeff Jarrett. If AEW fans are fine with it, good. I don't have any issue with it. At least he's not embarrassing himself, like in Ric Flair territory. I would argue to say that Jeff Jarrett actually moves around better than even Jericho at times. Would he win the world title? I don't know. That's hard to say, man. That is so hard to say because there's people that we thought would have won the world title by now, from Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and others, and it never happened. Could it happen? Sure. Could he win Ring of Honor World Champion? Sure. I don't know. It's his last year, but, I just don't want the repeat of Sting. My problem with the Jeff Jarrett retirement tour, and I said this last week, nothing against Jeff Jarrett. I used to hate the man, never liked his career, didn't like his stuff in TNA, didn't like his attitude, didn't like I started liking him when he started battling his alcoholism, and when he really started to open up about his problems and showed, his human side and, him being more of a just appreciating life. And then his personality started to rub off on me a little bit. But what I don't want to see happen is what happened with Sting. And last week, I mean, what an awful way to start off. Jeff Jarrett tells the world that this is my last year. I want the world title. And he's going to work his way up to the top. And the first person he fights is fucking Aaron Solo. I mean, you would think that someone, legitimate star, heel, that could legitimately challenge him, give him a run for his money. Look, I'm going to pull his fucking plug before it even starts. You fight the lowest of the lowest of the lowest of the lowest of the low. I mean, it's like John Cena wants to start a retirement tour, and he goes out there and he fights, I don't know. I mean, I don't even want to say Tozawa, because Tozawa to me is much higher on the food chain than Aaron Solo. Like, who is the absolute bottom of WWE, the absolute bottom of the barrel? Can't think of anybody right now. But you just find the absolute lowest of the lowest, and you put them up against Cena, and people are like, what? That's what I would do. No, I could see Giovanni Vinci coming out and cutting a promo, and John Cena hitting the, you can't see me. I could see him doing that. But, man, what does that say? You all came up with Apollo Crews and Giovanni Vinci. Is that how they're looked at? Like, they're considered the lowest of the low? Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? If your worst talent is Apollo Crews, you have a pretty damn good roster, if I may say. Scorpio just sent the 2-spot. Whatever happened to Stokely and Camille? Just said it literally 10 minutes ago. What happened to Camille? I mean, they should have faked an injury. They should have said that Camille suffered an unfortunate injury and we wish her the best on her recovery. We're in the wintertime. Say that she slipped on a patch of ice. To just disappear? Not good, man. Not good. Jeff asks, where is Giovanni Vinci? He's probably home right now. It's almost 10 o'clock at night, Sunday. He ain't booked for a house show. He's probably home watching television, watching football. I know what you mean. I've been doing that joke since 97. Where is he right now? I think he's on the chopping block, unfortunately. There's going to be a bus flip. There's going to be a slew of releases coming. WWE usually starts the releases in late January, early February. Over the years, that has notoriously been the time. They usually don't wait until after WrestleMania. It's usually before WrestleMania. You do have more cuts during the year, but for the most part, it's before. So I think in the next month, you will see a string of cuts. And honestly, you got to do these cuts before the trades. I mean, they're not doing a full-blown draft this time around, but the last thing you want to do is trade people, then they get released. Then it makes the GM look stupid. Like, why did you trade this person? And then you just get cut. So I think you have to do it soon. Jag is asking, what's next for LA Knight? They're going to keep him around the new bloodline for a little while. LA Knight is in a lot of mud right now. He is stuck in the mud. And it seems like WWE is utilizing Tama Tonga, Jacob Fatu, and now Solo Sikoa to get involved with certain wrestlers like Andrade. Now what? LA Knight now? Okay, we'll have him mingle. Like LA Knight will team up maybe with a Cody Rhodes. He might team up even with a Jimmy Uso once in a blue moon. He'll fight the bloodline. He'll probably go back and have a match with Carmelo Hayes. Like, that's what you do for the next couple of weeks. Do you turn LA Knight heel? No. LA Knight is still a huge crowd pleaser. By the way, thank you to everyone out there who really appreciated Kevin, my conversation Monday about crowd pleasers. People love that terminology. So we're going to stick with that going forward. So, all right, we're going to take 3 more and then we're going to cut it. VJ says on Jim Ross's podcast this week, he said Sonny wanted to live with him after his wife passed. She said she would cook, clean, and take care of him in the bedroom. And he said no. I did see that segment with Conrad. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. Sonny has offered herself for numerous people. No, she never offered to live with me. I'm not even going to claim that. Other things, that's for a story for another day. Only 3 people know it and know it for about 20 years. No, Sonny actually, she was looking for that companion. Sonny, unfortunately, for people that don't know her personally. Now, look, was I a good friend of hers? No. Did I know her personally a little bit? Sure. Was I friends with some of her friends? Yeah, I'm still friends with some of her girlfriends. Sonny is a very depressed person, a very lonely person. And for her, it was food, alcohol, medication, and companionship. That was what she wanted. And she needed to be with somebody. I don't want to say every day, but she needed somebody. She needed somebody, I don't want to say that she needed Jim Ross to depend on her, but she wanted that stability. She wanted that person to be with her, take care of her, be a companion, an ear to listen to, talk to. She would cook, she would clean. Yeah, I believe it. I don't think Jim Ross is lying at all. I don't doubt it at all. And trust me, there's a bunch of other people out there that probably saw that clip and said, yeah, she wanted me to do that too. When Chris Candido died, it left a huge void in her life, tremendous void. The sad thing about it was when Chris Candido was alive, Tammy didn't treat him the best. She fucked up. So, Garnet Chaos says she's a fuck up for sure, but the few times he worked with her, she was pretty cool. Yeah, Chaos. I mean, when we did the Chris Candido Memorial Show, she was cool as fuck with me. I still have Christmas cards that she sent, and she would write little messages in there, and she was very, very nice. When she did that shoot interview that time, and, she claimed that she didn't get paid, I think, from Goodman's show. I went on my show the day after. I was like, whoa. I got fucking $3,000-$4,000 in canceled checks that I gave Tammy myself. And she called me up and she apologized. She says, Anthony, I wasn't talking about you. I was just talking about the show itself. I said, okay. I said, but I was involved with that show and it makes everybody think that, I screwed you as well. But she did clear that up. And I appreciated that. The only thing I could say to be somewhat nice about Sonny is when Sonny was sober, that's when she was either the nicest or the nastiest. If you understand what I mean. The alcohol and the somas and the other narcotics is what relaxed her. She had a chemical addiction as well. But when she was clean and sober, she was a totally different person. But when it got to that point, and I never really saw that side. I saw that side a little bit, in the, with the XPW stuff and everything. But, her friends would tell me, like, when she is, she's got that craving, that fiending, there's no stopping her. And that's where trouble happens. And unfortunately, look what happened to her. Now she's in jail for another 16 years. And it's not even accepting prison or getting used to it. She's got some health issues. She may not even last the 17 years because of health issues. She's done a lot of damage to her body. And I'm not saying this to give any sympathy treatment. She deserves what she's gotten. But, just sad to see somebody who had it all and just totally blow it. Because she got countless opportunities to clean herself up and get help. She only went into rehab to avoid jail time originally. She didn't want to get clean. Why would you want to get clean when you're doing, like wrestling vixens, you're doing the OnlyFans stuff, you're making all this money, and you're able to get, medicinal items that make you feel good. If you feel good, why would you stop? Really? Why would you stop? If she would just not get behind the wheel, she'd probably be still doing it right now. If something makes you feel good, why would you stop? It's hard. It's hard. I can't relate to that. Thank God. All right, 2 more questions. 316 MMA. Do I think it was a mistake for Liv to drop the title at Raw? Where does she go next? Do I think she'll walk into SummerSlam with the title at her hometown in Jersey? Kevin and I have been saying it for weeks. We think part of the Judgment Day are going to SmackDown. I don't know if every member will go to SmackDown. If they want Judgment Day to still remain a faction, all of them will go to SmackDown. If not, I see Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio going to SmackDown. Liv Morgan has to go to SmackDown. Who should get a feud with on Raw? There's not a big selection. I think people are tired of the same Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan stuff. The best thing for Liv Morgan is to go to SmackDown. And that's going to happen. I mean, we could pretty much bet the farm on it. Jewel says Netflix would not want to let go of her. Why? She is a cog in a wheel. And that's not a negative thing. Rhea Ripley's a cog in a wheel. Everybody on the show is a cog in a wheel. They're not going to lose viewership because Liv Morgan is not on Raw. There are plenty of talents on Raw. Cleric of Chaos, thank you for the 5 spot. Temporary feel of a vice is no replacement for the bloss of life. Great show, DT. Have a great night, everyone in the chat. And all the best to Guardian of Chaos. Thank you, Mr. Cleric. I agree with you. That's why I don't take drugs. I mean, I can't afford them, but even if I did, that's why I don't. I mean, listen, I had my car accident in 96. I'm still on painkillers. I'm first to admit it, I am still on painkillers to this day. I only take 2 a day. Take 1 in the morning and 1 at night. And I have to be careful when I take it because I can't sleep. So I got to take sleeping medication. So I usually take pain medication at usually around 4 in the afternoon and 4 in the morning. And then late at night is when I take sleep medication. I have a spinal stimulator in me, so I don't take 20 painkillers a day. Painkillers make you feel good. It's nice to not feel pain. It's nice to feel relaxed. But you also realize that that's not the replacement for, for everyday life. I deal with my pain in other ways because that quick fix is not good. Your body's not meant to take things for that long. That's what always scares me. I've been taking pain medication now for 29 years. I don't abuse it. I only take 1 to 2 a day. Sometimes I get lucky and I have very little pain because of the spinal stimulator. I only take 1. But there are people out there that will take 6, 10, 20 a day. And it does make you feel great, but it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. When I first had my car accident, let me put it this way. I don't mind admitting this. When I first had my car accident, I got into a real deep depression because I always wanted to wrestle. I always wanted to be an indie manager. I always wanted to take bumps. And in the mid-2000s, I started doing that. And the only reason why I was able to take any bumps was because I was taking a lot of painkillers. I wasn't abusing it. I was prescribed a certain amount, but I was prescribed that amount because of the level of pain. And the level of pain was because I was doing things to my body that you shouldn't be doing because I physically was hurt from my car accident. When I went to VPW wrestling school for 9 months and I was taking back bumps, every time I took a back bump, my head would hit the back of the mat. And my entire life, one of the things that people always told me was, holy shit, you got a huge neck. I have a 18-inch neck, and it's not fat over here. It's literally, it's solid. I never realized how bad my neck was hurt because of my car accident. So whenever I trained and I would take a back bump, I could not tuck my neck in. As much as I tried, I couldn't tuck my neck in. My neck kept literally whipping backwards, and I get sick, get dizzy, have headaches. And it got to the point where the school was like, okay, no more back bumps. And that's why I just stuck with managing stuff. But without the pain medication, I wouldn't have been able to move at all. So, all right. Kyle asks, any predictions for the upcoming Dark Side of the Ring episodes? Who do I think deserves an episode? I am not a fan of Dark Side of the Ring. I think they've jumped the shark for the most part. I really don't care what episodes they come out with. I mean, let me put it this way. The reason why I don't put any credence in them is, let's use Tugboat, for example, or Earthquake. You're not going to tell me that John Tenta is Dark Side of the Ring. John Tenta, Georgianne Macropolis and I did the guest book at the funeral home where he was laid to rest. We were handling tributes that were coming in. John Tenta was a really, really, really beautiful guy outside of wrestling in the latter stage of his life. John Tenta was not Dark Side of the Ring. Cancer took him. I think it was bladder cancer. Cancer took him. They were putting Dark Side of the Ring episodes for people that had no business being on there. And I almost felt that they did that because they wanted to do Tugboat, and then do Shockmaster. And then I'm like, nah. When I start seeing good, really good people having episodes, then it's like, nah, fuck that. Fuck that. Foley does not deserve to be on Dark Side of the Ring. Foley put his life, his body through hell, but Foley loved his fucking wrestling career. Foley loved his friends. Foley's still alive. Mick Foley is, even though I disagree with his political views, Mick Foley is one of the most beautiful people out there, most caring person out there. Ain't no Dark Side of the Ring. Dark Side of the Ring, unfortunately, is Chris Benoit. Dark Side of the Ring is Hardbody Harrison. Dark Side of the Ring is fucking Buck Zumhofe. Not Mick Foley, not John Tenta. Just no. No. All right, this is the final one, cause and effect. Any chance AJ Lee shows up at the Rumble or Mania as a surprise? Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. This year, we're going to have quite a few surprises. I mean, the Men's Royal Rumble, I think JBL is a lock. I think we'll get at least one or two NWO members in it. Roman Reigns is obviously in it. So now we got to see if The Rock ends up being an entrant for the Royal Rumble. Not saying that it'll happen. You'll have some legendary women. I think if Nikki Bella can still take a bump or two, Nikki Bella will be in the Royal Rumble. There'll be some surprises. I want to see JBL clothesline a few people. Have JBL give maybe like a Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, like the clothesline from fucking hell and beyond. There'll be one or two TNA surprises, I would think. I think there is one or two people that we wouldn't even expect to be there showing up. AJ Lee, if CM Punk is in the Royal Rumble match, I don't think you put AJ Lee in the women's side. If something continues with Seth Rollins and you want AJ Lee, maybe you do the mixed tag at WrestleMania. Maybe you do consider AJ Lee and CM Punk versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Only thing wrong with that is I don't know if WWE wants Becky Lynch to be a heel. Seth Rollins will align with Drew McIntyre. But I don't know if WWE really wants that. I didn't like Becky Lynch as a heel. especially when she unfortunately had the postpartum depression a little bit and she looked emaciated on WWE television. So that may make things a little complicated, but I think AJ Lee shows up more because of the storyline. But if she ends up being a surprise entrant in a Royal Rumble, that'd be pretty freaking cool, man. And Tyrese with a 2-spot says he hopes Cena does not goof it up again this year. He doesn't goofy it up. I listen, get used to, we're going to get Cena's goofy mannerisms again. He's going to have a match where when he gets his first win in 6 years, you know the look on his face when he's like, that's coming this year. When he has his opponent down, even if it's Royal Rumble, and it looks like that it's down to 2 people or 4 people, he's going to have that look on his face of shock. We'll have that a few times this year. I won't mind Cena, his retirement tour, if he loses a little bit. Nothing wrong with losing a little bit. I know he's lost for 6 years, but he cannot have the Sting run. If he has the Sting AEW run, forget it. If he's in the Royal Rumble to win it or come close to winning, he's got to be in early. I would have him lobby to be number 1. I have to challenge myself. I want to be in there number 1. If I'm going to win this, I want to earn it. I know it sounds like suicide, but you know what? I want career suicide. I want to be number 1. If he's not number 1, if he's within the first 10 and he goes to the end, I'll be fine with that. All right, everybody. I'm out of here. I want to thank you very much for joining me this Sunday night. Once again, if you enjoyed the show, before you exit, just smash that thumbs up. Sends a message to YouTube that you like the show and you recommend it for someone else. If you have anybody out there you think would enjoy the shows, give them word of our website, DTKCShow.com. Keep spreading the word. Keep downloading all the shows we do. Keeping us relevant in the stats really helps us get exposure. It helps us grow. And now with the history shows back for another season, this Thursday's episode is massive. If I even started to describe like what we're getting into this Thursday, I'm a little surprised that there's this much news that happened this week in history, because it's not even a lot of Royal Rumble stuff, because the Royal Rumble usually happens the last week in January. But I look back at the last 6 years to play catch up to add to it, and I was kind of blown away at how much history happened this week. There's some funny shit. You know what I just finished going over? And I'll give you all something you might want to look up for comedic purposes that you guarantee you forgot about this. It was this week, maybe like 8 years ago. Anybody remember Richard Rodriguez, not Ricardo Rodriguez, Richard Rodriguez and Johnny Bravo, not the TNA wrestler? Do you remember that debacle? I totally forgot about this story, and Kevin and I covered it, and we ripped this motherfucker to pieces at that time. And, you know, sure enough, we were right. And that Johnny Bravo called us out, even with threats of defamation. And we called his bluff, and we were right. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, there was a guy, and it's funny because some cable outlet just did a special on him last year. There was a guy that got arrested, I think in 2017, right around that time, for distributing steroids. And he was in prison. And there's this guy, his name is Johnny Bravo, who wanted to be a TV producer. So he bribes this Richard Rodriguez guy into doing these prison interviews, exposing the steroid business. And in return, you know, he would get some money and stuff like that. And this Johnny Bravo guy went on YouTube wearing nothing but a white wife beater shirt, the white tank tops, like Deuce and Domino used to wear. And it's a dark room. And he's interviewing this Richard Rodriguez guy. And this guy is claiming of all these famous people being clients of his to buy steroids. And during the conversation, he brings up that he gave a lot of HGH and other steroids to Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns was a regular customer. And something smelled like shit from the get-go, because this John Bravo's like, why would somebody like Roman Reigns take, things that were not even meant for humans? And this guy is like, well, with the WWE, it's all about presence and physicality. And he gets into this whole, and meanwhile, he's claiming Mark Wahlberg bought steroids from him. He brings up a few other names. And on the YouTube screen, there's these claimed emails of orders. And there's certain areas darked out, but if you look at the emails closely, it looks like they were just written up. They didn't look real. But when they start talking about Roman Reigns, it feels like halfway through their conversation, they realized, oh, wait a minute, this is going to get a lot of attention. So Johnny Bravo says, well, on the next episode, we're going to reveal everything that Roman Reigns purchased on the next episode to come back to the next episode. So Kevin and I did an episode that Monday night, and we called him out on his bullshit. And we were talking about why a lot of things didn't make sense. It didn't add up. And, we called him out. And the next episode, not only does he not put up the Roman Reigns stuff, but we got a message, threatening, defamation, this and that he's a producer and, so Kevin nah, fuck this guy. We don't believe it. So Roman Reigns then makes a statement, says, I don't even know who this guy is. They never revealed the proof. Never came out. The guy was just talking out of his ass. Do I think he dealt steroids? Sure. I don't think Roman Reigns was a client. But that happened this week in history. I literally pulled the old DTKC episode and pulled the audio where he talks about Roman Reigns and everything. There's a lot of stuff this week. It was like I spent about 6 hours editing and gathering clips together, but this week is a fun week to look back on. And we're only the third week in January. So, all right, everybody, I'm out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. If you're around tomorrow night, Kevin and I will be live 15 minutes after Raw goes off the air. Now, Kevin and I were the only people a couple of weeks ago that told everyone first that Raw's time duration was going to be flexible. It was going to be treated like a house show, treated like a premium live event. Like they have an idea as far as how long they want to go. Some weeks it'll go longer. Some weeks it'll go shorter. I think tomorrow's show is going to be shorter. I do not think it's going to go 3 hours. I think tomorrow will be 2 to 2.5 at the most. It might even be closer to 2 hours. See, the thing you got to understand, this is something that nobody in the news world talked about. And I want to explain it here before I go. Kevin and I will explain it again tomorrow night. Repetition is very important for the WWE when it comes to Monday Night Raw now. And what I mean by that is you cannot have 3 hours, 2 hours and 55 minutes, 2 hours, 58 minutes, like close to 3 hours every time, and then boom, 2 hours. If the fans live are being treated to a whole bunch of extra matches after Raw goes off the air, then fine. But if you get people used to a certain time and then suddenly you cut it an hour short, it's going to screw up everybody's, it's going to screw everybody up. Trust me. So you will see a steady pattern with WWE. I think the 3 hours was pretty much because of the first. I think tomorrow, 2 hours, 15 minutes might be close to what I expect it to be. I don't think it's going to be much more than that, but we'll see. But whatever it ends, 15 minutes after, Kevin and I will be live on Discord. And we definitely plan on having a fun show. So Hope you could join us, and I'll catch you on the next one. Be well, everybody. Much love. Talk to you soon.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.